Hello everyone. So I've come back again to scrutinize the verses, parts of the verses in question. And so let's see where I get, how far. And with due fairness to the Shias, my Shia part from their narrations, what they say about the verses, how we make excuses or with due fairness analyze. For example, the adopted son's ex-wife marrying and the mistake Prophet Muhammad made, we are told in Surah Azab. So we are also told that he made an unintentional mistake, and how the Shias would take this. The Shias' narrations and sources, thorough research and very neutral research would tell me that the command of Allah had not yet come. Although Prophet Muhammad was from birth blessed and a prophet, however, about the adopted sons, the command came later. So that's why he first adopted Zaid and practiced the pagan law of adoption. And then later, when the commandment of Allah came, he let go of that. So he made an unintentional mistake. And yet another thing is that Zainab bin Jahsh, since Prophet Muhammad, we are told, he offered a proposal, marriage proposal to Zainab bint Jahsh, to Zaid, for Zaid. She did not get along with him, and so we were told that she had a choice. However, the previous verse reveals, and also Imam's narration, that she didn't have a choice. She had to marry Zaid, since the previous verse in Surah Azab tells us, when the matter, Allah and His Messenger decide something for us, the matter has been decided. The believing women and the believing men have no choice in it. So again, I'm going to go very slow with this, analyzing the verses with simple English language. I'll try not to confuse you and be very clear about this. Hopefully, let's see if I can do this. So here about Zainab bin Jahsh in the verses of the Quran, I'm trying to remember other verses, but it is very clear that once Allah and His Messenger decide a certain matter, upon a certain matter for us believing women and believing men, we have no choice in that matter. So how come compensation was made for Zainab bin Jahsh in this matter, when none of the ayats, as far as I can remember, I can find any compensation made, unless a verse which says take alms out of their wealth for them and pray for them. Surely Allah, your prayer is a source of security and forgiveness, purity for them from evil things. So Zainab bin Jahsh will have to pay for this in alms, to Prophet Muhammad, because she did obey him, although unwillingly, and married Zaid. However, she did not get along with Zaid. So again, we are not told this step by step. You see, the way I am telling you, that if you believe, you have no choice, unwillingly you do something which the Prophet tells you to do, but you must be happy in it. You have no choice but to be happy and to do your best in this marriage that you unwillingly got into. So it kind of doesn't make sense to me here. But giving with fairness, due fairness to the Shia way, I'll try to see this from the Shia point of view, and then give my opinion. So the verse in consideration is, there are verses in consideration which are from Surah Ahzab, verse 32 and 33. 32 and 33. So the matter has been decided, and if something goes wrong, you've tried your best. But Zainab used to complain, and what the complaint was that, see, this also doesn't make sense, because we are told now the slave, adopted son, not even a slave, he was a slave of Khadija bint Khalid, the wife of Prophet Muhammad, and later Khadija gave Zaid to Muhammad bin Abdullah, and then he made him, he was given as a gift, and then Muhammad made Zaid his adopted son. His parents had come, his father had come to take him, but and was willing to pay any price for it, but then Zaid refused, although Muhammad wanted to set him free and give this slave boy to his father. So Muhammad did want that, but Zaid didn't want it. So then, there and then, in the Shia narrations, we are told that Muhammad made people a witness. Okay, there you see Muhammad made some people a witness that now Zaid is my son and I'm his father. But this mistake later on, we are told in Surah Ahzab verses, you can go through them, and please, if I'm not giving the verses here, this doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does exist, and I'm not trying to deceive anyone or cheat anyone. Far from it. I'm a truth seeker. So you must go through these verses, because there seems to be a grave mistake in from these verses and from the narrations of the Shias, Shia side, our Imams. So now there's some things we are told that Allah knows and Muhammad does not know. So as it was being revealed to him, so he did not go against the commandment of God. Like we are told, Hazrat Adam had no desire to disobey God, but that he was misled by Shaitan, Iblis, who became Shaitan, the rejected. So here Muhammad was very God-fearing, extremely God-fearing, and would never go against God's wishes. So when he made some people a witness to making Zaid his son, he then started to fear what those people would say, I guess, right? Not the pagans, but those people who he made a witness. So you can see this in the multilingual Quran, commentaries of Agha Puya and Ali, Shias, they were Shias, in Surah Azab verses. The details are given there. And so let's see, I will keep analyzing and giving my opinions on this further. So, and but back to the Surah Nur now. So the Shias here, we can say that Muhammad actually did not disobey God. Of course, he did not disobey God. He was God-fearing. And but the reason why he feared the people here was he had before the commandment of God came on, the practice of adopted sons. The commandment, he did not break the commandment of God before, because the commandment had not come about adopted sons. Now you could marry their wives, ex-wives. So he did not break the commandment, and he feared the people who he had made a witness before, when the commandment of God had not come about marrying adopted sons' wives, ex-wives, after they had divorced. And so God tells us that they are not your blood, so you can marry them. And let me see other points in consideration with fair dueness to the Shias side of this. What else have if I've missed anything, I will add that in another video. So right now, okay, so I've reached here, and that's why Rasulullah here was fearing the people, because now a new commandment, now a commandment of Allah had come, and he was going to change this, what Prophet Muhammad also was practicing. Shouldn't he have been told before? When was Allah asleep? Didn't Allah know prior? When Allah knows everything? So this verse gives it away. You see, when Allah knows everything, why would Allah be late in changing a pagan law which Muhammad bin Abdullah was practicing also? Because in this surah, right, we are told that he concealed in his heart or in himself what Allah was to reveal, what Allah had revealed to him about Zaid, that Zainab will divorce Zaid and get married, and now she will marry Prophet Muhammad. Do you see this? Why would Allah now bring this? And then we are told, isn't it very conveniently for the to ease the believers, to make it easy for the believers to marry their adopted sons' ex-wives? I mean, the all-knowing, who knows everything, shouldn't he have stopped Muhammad from adopting Zaid and making people a witness, and then being scared of those people who he made a witness when he adopted Zaid, as we are told from the Shia accounts. So please consider these things. Allah knows, is all-knowing, and yet he tried to, he did not try, because he never tries anything. So his commands are eternal. Some of his rules are eternal. Some of them are, he brings in new and changes the old. Yes, so that is put in the Quran, that sometimes he evases some things, his own laws, and brings something new. So that we can reflect upon, and I will do that. Yes, so some of the changes that Allah brings in His laws, we do not understand, and we are told it's in God's wisdom. We will find out later. It is good for us. So, but I mean, in this God's wisdom, we will have to keep reflecting, right? So here, even those critical of Islam, I mean, in honest ways, cannot say anything. If they criticize it, we would say that it is in Allah's wisdom. They don't know much. They don't know anything. They are atheists, or they have turned apostates. But even the believers don't know. But yet they remain as believers, and there are some certain things about Allah that we don't know. But when He decides for us, then we have to take it. When He decided, here I can catch my own self, my own Shia self, is that so He's decided for Zainab bin Josh to marry Zaid bin Haritha, yes, and yet Zainab, in His wisdom, whatever Allah gives you and the Prophet gives you, take it and obey Allah and obey the Messenger, and whatever they have decided and decreed for us, we have no choice in that matter. So okay, I'm going to take it step by step. Zainab bin Josh reluctantly agreed to Prophet's proposal, marriage proposal to Zaid at that time, we are told. And then she wasn't getting along with Zaid. But is she not supposed to get along with Zaid? Keep her desires aside, and you know, what Allah gives you and what this messenger gives you, take it. You have no matter in this choice. So how come then the Prophet agreed, and Allah also agreed, that they should be divorced? And succumbing to Zainab's this reason, that she is a highborn and Zaid is not, when there's another ayat in the Quran which says all of us are equal in the eyes of Allah, right? So this contradiction. So Allah's wisdom can be so frail that now about Zainab, if we take this example, Zainab has to now divorce Zaid. So this is very, very important to look at and to reflect upon, and see that even as Shias fail not that we fail to understand the wisdom of Allah, or we don't know the whole wisdom of Allah through the ages, or for that time also for Zainab and Zaid. But what wisdom is this? Because if Allah and the Messenger give you something, it is a blessing. This marriage is so blessed. It has to work, and it is for the couple's happiness and ease and comfort, and the society also, because married couples make children, make a society, and a healthy society. So when a believing parents had an unbelieving child and they feared, in Surah Kaf, Hazrat Khizr was sent to kill that unbelieving child, lest this unbelieving child, they feared, would give his parents trouble or distress or become rebellious, just out of the fear. Hazrat Khizr, we are told, killed this child. In Surah Kaf, we are told in the verses, numbers I don't remember, sorry, you can go and check them, only out of fear. So so you see, a society marriage needs to work, and when Allah and the Messenger have decreed, this marriage is supposed to work. So it is very, very shocking. No matter where the Shias come from, I'm still refuting them with due fairness to them. And this is not out of anything but truth seeking, and although from the other side also we are told that we learned from Prophet Muhammad that this was the true religion, and no other religion but this religion. And Allah has done a favor on us by making us Muslims, giving us Islam. So this religion is very important. And they also say this, that we are supposed to abide by it, right? And we are steadfast in this truth, and we want to convey the truth to others. And this is the religion which saves humanity, because it is rid from idol worshipping and impurities, unmixed with the world. It brings the one and only truth like no other religion has brought and will ever bring. This is the only true religion. So then why? I mean, they also tell us, the Shia religious scholars and Sayyids who have studied the religion, that we are also conveying the truth and living the truth. So why, like you would not believe me when I'm refuting my Shias who have given their blood and sweat for this religion and to convey the truth and for us to live this truth, that the wisdom of Allah fails, giving the example of Zainab bin Jash's broken marriage with Zaid and the problem Zaid had with Zainab bin Jash only on this highborn matter. So okay, so this reflection on this through the Shia's point of view and beliefs, and then we come back to Surah Nur, which is we vehemently deny any prostitution allowed in Islam, right? Surah Nur, ayat number 33. emphatically deny. There is no prostitution allowed in Islam, in the Quran verses. So, but here, and then we say that here in Surah Nur, ayat number 33, we say that no, it was a non-believer, disbeliever, or an idol worshipper, Abdullah ibn Ubay, who allowed these things, who did these very terrible, indecent crimes committed against the girls, slaves, or women. However, if you look at this verse, and this is not even the Shias, which way will they come to me? Which way will my Shia part will come to me? Those who cannot afford to marry should abstain from what is unlawful until God enriches them by His grace, and free those slaves you possess who wish to buy their freedom after a written undertaking, if you know they have some goodness, and give them out of the riches God has given you. And so, completing this verse, I'll go inside. Which one was I reading? Given you. This is Ahmad Ali's translation that I was reading. And do not force your maids to prostitution. Here it's maids. If. So there are 2 ifs and 3 ifs here. But this is important. If they know they have some goodness, if you know they have some goodness, and give them out of the riches God has given you. Do not force your maids to prostitution. If. So they have put while or when they wish to lead married lives or remain chaste. Ahmad Ali says married lives. See, to prostitution if they wish to lead married lives in order to get the benefits of this world. Again, I'm going to read this verse. Do not force your maids to prostitution if they wish to lead married lives. If is very important. The word if here. This means there is room. So now we don't have any wisdom of God, thinking too much, overthinking, going through details, mind splitting, hair splitting. We don't understand. This is Allah knows best. Rasulullah, what can we say about that verse in Surah Ahzab, verse 33? What can we say about Zainab bin Josh's case? Okay, all that I have given, and now here there's no Allah's wisdom. It's straightforward. And why was this part of the verse ignored? There's no commentary on this part. The only commentary is that yes, no prostitution is allowed, and Abdullah bin Ubay used to do this, and this is completely despicable, loathsome, condemned, and prohibited in Islam, right? Through a Shia commentary. So again, God has given you, do not force your maids to prostitution if they wish to lead married lives. So, meaning if they don't wish to lead married lives or be chaste, then you can prostitute them. Very simple. Very simple. And this if is used before also, so no one can change this. You can put while, it's still, room is there for. You can put when they wish, even if you put when they wish to remain chaste, or when they wish to marry or lead married lives, still there is room for prostitution. Right? See this? Okay, agreed? And then we go in order, continuing with the verse, in order to get the benefits of this world. But if someone forces them, surely God will forgive them after their forced helplessness, for He is forgiving and kind. God will forgive them, in brackets, after their forced helplessness, for He is forgiving and kind. Ahmad Ali's translation. Forgiving, is this for the people, to tell them that God is forgiving, they were compelled? It should be rephrased, shouldn't it? This verse, there is no blame on them if they are compelled, like God says in Surah Azab. There's no blame on Prophet Muhammad if he follows the commandments of Allah. There's no blame on Prophet Muhammad, him, if he unintentionally makes a mistake. Surah Azab verse again. I don't remember the numbers right now. So please forgive me for that. Okay? And so there is no blame. There is no harm on Prophet Muhammad, there is no blame. If God was to put here, there is no blame on them, then He is forgiving and kind. Yes, He's kind, but He is forgiving. Actually, those who sin, they deserve God's forgiveness. But those who are compelled to do something, like, without their consent, by the believers, not Prophet Muhammad, because if Prophet Allah and the Prophet Muhammad decide Zainab bin Jahsh should get married to Zaid, meaning then this is what happened. She had to, without her consent, she was forced to get married. She was put under duress. She had no choice in it but to get married to Zaid. Imam Muhammad Baqir tells us that Zainab bin Jahsh didn't want to marry Zaid, and that her brother was sent also to tell Prophet Muhammad that my sister doesn't want to marry Zaid, but she got married to him because the verse came down. This is when the verse came down, that when a matter has been decided by Allah and by His Messenger, believing women and men have no choice in it. Now, okay, here, Surah Nur, verse 33, there is no blame on them if Allah had put that. So now, if these girls are compelled, so there's no blame on them, right? How can God be forgiving for them? So when I understood the English and paid attention, first time when I read this verse, not the first time, but when I had understood English properly and paid attention, this verse came as a surprise to me, this part of the verse, that Allah is forgiving and merciful. Ahmad Ali puts kind here. How can, it was so confusing. I took it that Allah is forgiving Because you see, forgiveness is for those who compel them. They are the criminals, they are the sinners, right? And remember that prostitution, vehemently, we are told, is not allowed. Rape is not allowed in. But punishments and all these explanations are given by our imams in our Shia narrations, recorded in our Shia books. So that's why I was so shocked. Forgiveness is only for those who sin. So why would Allah be telling the people that they are forgiven? Even the people, even the believers, shouldn't the believers know that they are forgiven? This is a compulsion, this is a sin, they were compelled, and there's no sin on those who are compelled to go into prostitution. So Shias fail in this too. Here in Surah Nur, ayat 33. Do you see this? So that we can now, if I can also see this, and then go to another verse, perhaps in another video, complete it, reflect on it, as we are told in the Quran to reflect on these verses. So taking it very slow, in piecemeal, analyzing through the Shias, which I feel are more like very in research, thorough in their research, neutralized and all, thoughtful and balanced and neutral. But maybe somewhere the fear has crept in us too, and we couldn't see this. We couldn't see these part of the ayats which tell us that it's wrong. Prostitution is allowed. There's room for prostitution, compulsion. Who is forgiving? Who will be forgiven? Why has Allah put it this way? To trick us. Now, when we go further, we find out that we've been tricked. We couldn't see it. It's like a cult or something, right? Because in Surah Nur, ayat 32, there's a subtle, like contradiction or something which tells us already Allah has said that if marry your single women, men, if they have no means, Allah will enrich them out of His grace and His bounty. Surah 32. Now the Shias will say, but now in more explaining, more, this ayat has come forth. But could this ayat have come forth, 33 in Surah Nur, after 32, to make us kind of confused? Those who cannot afford to marry should abstain from what is unlawful until God enriches them by His grace. So we think, oh, that's great. And then we see Yazid used to, when Bibi Zainab was, her veil, Imam Hussein's women folks, Prophet Muhammad's grandchildren's women folk veils were snatched. Yazid's women were in parda, veiled. So how terrible Yazid was, what he did, how unfair, how oppressing. So here for the believers, it's abstain, remain chaste, but God will enrich you. Already God has said in ayat 32, get married if you're single. God will enrich you out of His bounty. This is the sunnat of Prophet Muhammad, and it is also mentioned in the ayat in the Quran, Surah Nur, ayat 32. Get your single men and women, boys and girls married. If they are poor in poverty, God will enrich them out of His bounty. And now again, the way this verse is put here, in 33, those who cannot afford to marry should abstain from what is unlawful. So our religious scholars, Shia religious scholars, say that, just to stress upon that remain chaste until Allah enriches you. Here there's a subtle contradiction, a repetition or a contradiction also, both. Those who cannot afford to marry should abstain. But in ayat 32, just the previous one, we are told, get married even if you are poor. And then we could have been told there that abstain until, and remain chaste, but remain chaste and get married. Allah will enrich you out of His bounty. But here we are told those who cannot afford to marry should abstain from what is unlawful. I mean, that is understood in, and this could have been put succinctly in ayat 32. Right? These verses, Allah has given a challenge, and we believe that none can bring forth such verses, but Allah has brought forth and written in such a manner. Then succinctly Allah could have put in Surah ayat number 32, Surah Nur, remain chaste but get married. So that would be until Allah, so it would be a contradiction. Allah will get married if you're single. Allah will enrich you out of His bounty, even if you are poor. But remain chaste so it doesn't make sense. Remain chaste until, and abstain from, so abstain from fornication. If let's see whether I'm kind of confused here. Let me see if I can get the 32 and together, and then read them right together here. Oh God. So Surah ayat tafsir. No, I don't want to go into the tafsir. Can I get it's I'm getting in different English, please. So this is okay, no, English translation. Okay, here it says, marry off free singles among you, as well as the righteous of your bondmen and bondwomen. If they are poor, Allah will enrich them out of His bounty. For Allah is all bountiful, all knowing. Verse 32 of Surah Nur. And now we come to verse 33.
وَأَنكِحُوا الْأَيَامَ مِنْكُمْ وَالصَّالِحِينَ.
Marry of the free verse. Am I in? So I'm still on. So see, verse 32. Okay, marry of the free singles among you, as well as the righteous of your bondmen and bondwomen, and remain chaste until you marry. If they are poor, Allah will enrich them out of His bounty. For Allah is all bountiful, all knowing. So remain chaste until you marry each other, you get into marriage. But if you are poor, if you are poor, then don't worry, get married, Allah will enrich you. So very succinctly put, and yet what is missed is remain chaste here in ayah 32. But the later ayat, why Allah wanted this, why did Allah then say remain chaste in the in verse 33? Could it be that what we missed was that he wanted to allow this. Somehow I've put it's come to those who cannot. He wanted to allow this prostitution, and it is so well put that we all at one time I missed it when completing the Quran, and then later on when I read it, when I had a good understanding, a kind of an average understanding of English comprehension and words, I was shocked, because in Surah 33 it says, it's later on this part, and let those who do not have the means to marry keep themselves chaste. This sounds very good for us, okay? Until Allah enriches them out of His bounty. So this was not mentioned in the previous verse, to remain chaste. And if any of those bondspeople in your possession desires a deed of emancipation, make it possible for them. If you find goodness in them, give them some of Allah's wealth which He has granted you. Very good for the believers and the Muslims. Do not force your slave girls into prostitution for your own worldly gains while they wish to remain chaste. Dr. Mustafa Khattab, the Clear Quran translation. While they wish to remain chaste. So there's a room if they don't wish to remain chaste. So even the preceding verse doesn't have anything, any punishment for the, or anything for this clarification. While they wish to remain chaste. And if they don't wish to remain chaste, and if someone coerces them, then after such a coercion, Allah is certainly all forgiving, most merciful to them. To even the coercer, the compeller. But we would say, no, it is, no, it's not like that, Zahra. It's for the ones who are compelled, so that we know they are forgiven. No, Allah should have rephrased this. Don't you think so? Because forgiveness is for those who sin. And if you say there's a prostitute and maybe she's been put under duress, so we should keep our mouths shut and not say anything against her. What else? So, no, Allah is forgiving So couldn't Allah explain it to us in a better way, that there is no blame? But He didn't put it that way. There is no blame on these slave girls if they are compelled. So tricky way that it just slipped, and so the compeller also forgiven. Room for, and the Shias may not agree to this. They may need time, and so do I, to really see what I'm reading and the explanations I've given and the analyzing I've done, even on my live stream or Facebook profile, public profile, that this is what it is, that there is no, Allah has slipped and passed by so in a tricky manner. So there's no, He should have mentioned this punishment for those who compel these slave girls. Okay, so I think for now, I think I will rest my case and then come back later to complete it. As a Shia, I was and a truth seeker now, and have been for a long time. And the truth will decide which way I will go and live. So do my religious scholars say the same thing? And we are concerned about the truth and nothing but the truth. But the punishment for those who mislead others is great. They're the lowest abyss, you know. Like we are told, the evil leaders will desert them in Surah Anfal, verse 48. And so, also I looked at the multilingual commentary on that verse, Surah Anfal, verse 48. There, it's very quiet about Shaitan truly fearing God. Quiet, silence. So I looked at the other Surah Baqarah ayats 10 to 20, 8 to 20. I looked at that, I just skimmed through it, but nothing about why does Shaitan says he truly fears God. Truly fears God, and if he truly feared God, there's no commentary on that. There's commentary on, the leaders having all that misleading their own followers. Evil people, evil leaders. But no commentary on Satan telling them that I truly fear God. And that's written in Surah Anfal, ayat 48. So, and another thing was that in the Quran we are told in Surah Yasin, take Shaitan as your open enemy. So the Shia point of view that, like Muhammad and the Quran tells us the truth about Iblis and Shaitan, and yet I could not understand how he did not have any fear when disobeying the command of Allah. They would say, oh, there he said, his arrogance came up. But whatever comes up, whether it is he's better and he couldn't see it, he was blinded, but he did not fear Allah at that time. Whether his arrogance prevented him or whatever it was that prevented him from fearing Allah, it is that it prevented him from fearing Allah. That's why he disobeyed Allah in prostrating to Adam. So there we go again, we Shias there's no other explanation about this, and hence the truth is against the Quran ayat, this part that Shaitan says, I truly fear God. So, and the commentary does not make sense. I mean, yes, about this, it doesn't. Like, how shall I say this? That Shaitan feared Allah? Shaitan fears Allah? Okay, the severe punishment is there. He knows about that. He knows about everything. He knows a lot more than those disbelievers in Jang-e Badr did. But he fears Allah, truly fears Allah. That I cannot accept. And he's confessing it, that he truly fears Allah. But there in the beginning, when he disobeyed Allah's command, he did not truly fear God. Because Allah said, now you are rejected. And Shaitan and his companions will be going in the fire of hell. Shaitan and his followers will be going in the fire of hell. There's a verse, I will find that verse out later on and give it to you word by word. In the Quran, I will search for that verse. Shaitan and his followers. So here we are told in Surah Anfal that Shaitan says, I truly fear God, and the Allah's punishment is severe. So it doesn't make sense. You see, it fails. So it seems like this prophet was a false prophet. And so these two verses and other verses give away, especially this one, Surah Nur, ayat 33, gives away the falseness. And also Shaitan's, Surah Anfal, I found a new one, 48 verse, gives away the contradiction, which is tremendous. If Shaitan had to truly fear Allah and confess there, truly fear, he can confess on Judgment Day, and also but truly fear. You know who are the truly fearing, God fearing? Taqwa, Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussain, Ahl al-Bayt, pious, Salihin Allah. How can Shaitan truly fear Allah? But this is put in Surah Anfal, ayat, in the end, 48, the end part of verse 48. Please have a look at this and reflect on this. And I have reflected on it for many days now, more so when I first understood this ayat. I was like shocked, very, very shocked. The Surah Nur ayat, back to Surah Nur, ayat 33. And recently have been reflecting on it and giving myself reasons and fair dueness to the Shia parts and narrations, and still it comes to that I'm right, what I saw. Until perhaps Imam Mahdi brings the right Quran, it's time for Imam Mahdi to come. And so we have been following the wrong Quran, which was changed. So this also I have to reflect upon, and I have been reflecting upon. And so shouldn't the previous Imams have done something? Because then Allah says that it is for me to protect this Quran and all this. So the Shias should have got the true Quran in their hands right now. I mean, since 1400 years. Whichever way the hypocrites come and try to change the Quran, still the true Shias should have the proper interpretation, explanation, translation of the Quran. And that we Shias, 12 Shias, don't have. Something to reflect upon. Okay, so waiting for Imam Mahdi to bring the true Quran, it doesn't make sense. Logic fails us, because what about those who believed in these verses? And maybe I should further reflect on this, and then I will come back later. Now I'm very tired. So thank you so much. All the best. I'm here concerned about the truth and discovering. Thank you very much.